Ken die lewe. Sien dit raak. Waardeer dit. Pieter was born in a time after the Great Drought and the Depression. He was raised by his poverty-stricken, illiterate Afrikaner grandparents and was somewhat of a troublemaker at school. He had a fascination with chickens. They symbolized his frustrations with his own abilities. Chickens had all the ingredients to fly, but they couldn't. Gradually, the chicken wire that restrained him got holes in it and eventually disappeared. His chickens learned to fly.
I used to read a lot, and there are libraries full of books, thousands of books, millions of words written. And everybody that wrote a book thought he had the answer. Why is an artist an artist? Why does he paint? Why does he write? Why does he compose? And he made a study, he says, and he found that all those great artists, he's talking about the musicians and the big painters and sculptors, they were people that at birth, or rather as babies, couldn't adapt to the world around them. When they were wet, they weren't dried, and when they weren't hungry, they were fed, and when they were hungry, they weren't fed, like that. And they couldn't adapt to the world around them. And they started creating their own worlds. And I think that's true of myself. And I created my own world, and obviously I will create a pleasant world for me.
He never waited for inspiration. He just got up in the morning and went to his studio. He did what his hands found to do.
You know, I suppose anybody, when you start off, you'd like to paint like Rembrandt, or you'd like to paint like Picasso, or you'd like to paint like him, or that. That was normal for me. And until I went to Belgium, at the academy there, and we were 30 different artists from 30 different countries. And each one of them brought his own culture with him, and he was doing something that was okay for him. And then I decided if their stuff is valid, then surely mine is also. I brought my culture. And then I decided I wouldn't want to paint like anybody else. I only want to paint like I paint. And that was a great breakthrough for me, because after that I got confidence and I started working. Daar is tye wat ek dink daai werk is ek heeltemal tevrede mee. Ek werk nie eintlik vir goed of sleg of beter of dit nie. As ek 'n ding begin, dan maak ek hom klaar en ek aanvaar hom soos hy is as hy klaar is.
I've always said one of the beauties of living in South Africa is that you have an audience and you don't know who they are, you don't know what they're reacting, you don't know, and the great beauty of that is you cannot paint to an audience. Now, if you live in New York or Berlin or London or Rome or any of those big things, you know there's a section which loves abstract art, which loves formal art, which loves figurative art, which loves this and that. So you have, and you even have galleries that you know you can go to and show your work. That gallery won't accept you because you're not abstract. This gallery won't accept you because you don't do this. In this country, you've got nothing like that. For most human beings, that's life. You start here, you go to school, you get married, you have children, da-da-ba-da-ba-da. But for a painter, what happened 2 years ago may be more important than what happened this morning, and not as important what happened 50 years ago, because somehow in those little discs that you all whirl around inside your head, things get planted and they might be useful. Painting isn't something you do in a little corner like that, you know, and everyone is around that. And that does come out with Pieter van Westhuizen, that he looked at his landscape and brought it into the studio.
I'm influenced really by whatever is happening around me in my environment. If I go to Israel, the drawings I make will probably be Israeli. I mean, the building, the architecture is different, the people look different, everything looks different, and that's what I put down. You go to Belgium, they look different again. You go to Japan, they look the Japanese. You come to South Africa, they're different.
When he starts drawing on that piece of paper, that is the moment that's so exciting, because this time it can be different. This time you can do something that you've never found yourself doing before. It may not be all that 100% original, but it's 100% original to you. That world to me is not my world of art. So really when you come and ask me, in a kind of way, you're asking somebody who speaks only Mandarin Chinese, and these in English and Afrikaans. Now, if that all sounds as if I'm creeping away and getting under a little shield, well, that's tough. And anyway, you know, Matisse said a wonderful thing. He said, artists should shut up.
By my maak het eintlik nie 'n tikkie saak nie. Ek kry baie kritiek, moenie worry nie. Nog nooit jy's persoonlik nie, maar in die koerante en daai soort van goed. Is vir my om te ewe. Ek hanteer dit dieselfde as 'n kompliment. As hulle iets goed skryf, dan sê hulle iets goed. En as hulle iets sleg skryf, dan sê hulle iets slegs. Maar ek doen my ding, maar daai ou doen maar sy ding. Ek meen sy job is om te skryf, en as hy goed kan skryf, dan skryf hy goed, maak nie het ondersaak wat sê hy van my nie. Ek gee hom krediet daarvoor as sy taalgebruik goed is, of hy krities is, negatief of positief. Dit maak regtig geen saak nie, en dit kan geen verskil maak aan die manier wat ek werk nie. Ek gaan definitief nie my manier van werk verander omdat iemand sê, dit is so nie. Ek weet ek het een keer 'n uitstalling gehou in die Kaap en Marieke de Klerk het die ding geopen. En die ou vir die Agus het 'n helse negatiewe kritiek gehad. Hy het gekla oor die rame. Hy het gekla oor hy het vir Marieke kwalijk geneem dat sy so laag daal om 'n uitstalling van my te open. En jy weet hy het lelike goed gesê. Maar En daar was nogal heel wat repercussie daar. Mense het agterna in die koerant ingeskryf en gemoun oor die manier waarop die ou die kritiek geskryf het.
I think art brings people together. Firstly, for those where it plays a central role in their lives, it's the subject matter of lively debates. It's intellectually stimulating. They talk and analyze, and from that arise also deeper understanding of the meaning of specific forms of art, of specific genres, of specific schools of thought. So I really think, philosophically speaking, art is important to many people.
Ja, ek en die FV het baie saam golf gespeel. En ons het al daar by hulle gaan eet hier op die plaas en toe het ek my tafelmaniere verloor. Maar nee, ek het al die messe gebruik en toe ek nou by die vleis kom, toe het ek nog net die vismes oor. Toe struikel ek maar met hom.
When we played golf, I stopped being the former politician. He stopped being the famous painter, and we were just ordinary golfers, decrying our shortcomings and incapability at times, but being exuberant when we got it right. He was a wonderful man to play with and a wonderful friend to share things with. Ek het in Pieter as vriend 'n besondere mens gevind. Hy het 'n pragtige sin vir humor gehad, maar hy het ook na die lewe met ietwat van skeptisisme gekyk. Hy was analities oor die lewe. En hy het nie wat as algemene waarhede aanvaar word, sommer maar net aanvaar nie. Hy het ernstige en diep vrae oor die sin van die lewe gevra.
Enige tyd begin die toekoms. Hy het nie gister begin nie of watter dag nie. Hy begin elke oomblik. Van die een oomblik na die ander, dan begin die toekoms. En dan sê hy maar môre. En as ek baie sê, dan sê ek lekker naweek. Maak nie saak watter tyd van die week of wat dit is, nie lekker naweek. Ek beplan niks vooruit nie. My favourite's a pencil, because of the feeling you can put into it. It's all in the points of your fingers. It's not exactly a marketable thing, so I do that only for myself. I don't think I've ever sold a painting in my life, personally. Unless somebody else sells it, I won't sell it. I can't. It's totally impossible for me. If I make a painting like this and somebody wants to buy it, now I must put a price on it. How can I put a price on it? What's it worth? And I've never really been into money at all. I mean, there were times in my life when I was very poor that I didn't have food to eat. And there were times that I had more money than I needed. And over the years, you got more money. And I never have money of my own. I don't carry money. It's if I need something and I want it and I have the money, I buy it. If I don't have the money, I don't need it and I don't want it. It's as simple as that. I never wanted anything that I couldn't afford at the moment. I would never go into debt, never borrow money or do anything like that to get something. If I don't have the money, I don't need it. I always had somebody that does it for me. And then it worked.
People from throughout the world, from Norway, from South America, wherever, found a universal appeal in his work because there's so much variety, not only in the subject matter, but also in the medium. There's oil, pastel, gouache, etchings. Some work are very simplistic, some are very complex. People often told me the story that if in the horrible event of something happening to their home, burning down, after family, they run in and get their van der Westhuizen. I mean, that's been told to me on many occasions. And people absolutely bond with this work.
In 1981, Pieter and his wife Letty set off for Belgium. Despite their plane turning around twice and everything going wrong, they arrived in Belgium against all odds.
He had the opportunity to go and do something which was almost not accepted at that stage, because in the first place we were isolated, and the only people that were at the academy were sort of the very radical political ANC, of the people that had almost been given refugee status in a way, and for him, as a very much an Afrikaans older man, to be there was also already strange. But I mean, so they had a lot of being confronted by being South African all the time, and as he always said, that made him realize who he was, and that he could from that point on be himself, Pieter van der Westhuizen, as an artist. It was still being South African.
We didn't get any tuition there, but we had professors and they invited what they call guest professors. And you could also, as a student, you could suggest a name, and they would ask this person, and if he was prepared to come, he'd come. And at one stage we had a guy there, he was I think it was a psychiatrist or something, and he was a poet and a philosopher. And he was there for about 3 months. And what he used to do is he'd get all 30 of us together in one studio. And then if they came to your studio, they would ask, you'd have to explain what you're doing and why you're doing it. And then they'd question you and query you. And those meetings always ended up in a fist fight. For some reason, before the meeting was over, they were clubbing each other. I mean, if they come to your studio and they ask and they have bad critics on your work or something like that, you get mad at them. And he enjoyed it. This guy enjoyed it thoroughly.
Letty was the center of his life. She had always battled with poor health. All of a sudden, she was gone. Her death destroyed Pieter. He couldn't bring himself to paint. There were times that he would disappear, no one would know where he had gone. He couldn't return to Rosenville. He was devastated.
I'll always remember finding him there, just sitting at the back of the studio and saying, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to leave here because I don't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And that I'll always remember of him. And there's that absolute cut-off point in his life where things changed. And then from there on, so many things did change in his life. It was as though everything that they had started in life, the Belgian thing was a fun thing but also difficult, but then suddenly everything changed. And that gave him an opening to almost be open for so much change.
His first wife, Letty, had just passed away, and he was living in Hart Bay. And we went to go and visit his studio there. And we actually asked him to do a painting of flower sellers for us, which we took to Japan as a memory of Cape Town. And he then really, really loved the connection with Japan. We didn't think we'd see him there very quickly, but within a year he came to visit us. He certainly loved Japan. He basically, after his first visit, I think he felt that he'd like to come back and learn a bit more about Japanese techniques, particularly the woodblock printing. So wherever he went, he always had his sketchbook with him. On the trains, where, he loved the open air museums, and there's some fantastic ones. The artwork there is really, really special.
He was fascinated by how they drew birds. And Pieter was always fascinated with chickens, but how the Japanese drew birds, and it made a lasting impression on him.
I put a piece of paper on and I take a color and I put it down and I see what the color appears like on the paper, and then I put another color next to it which satisfies me. And then from that, something comes out, and then I will accentuate that. It can be a landscape, it can be a chair, it can be a person, it can be anything. It's a process, and I'm as surprised as the next person when it's finished. The other thing is, close up I can't really see anything. You know, if I stand in front of the easel, I can't see what I'm doing there. It's all a matter of feeling. I have to stand back to see what happened. So I'll work a bit and then stand back and see what happened and then go back and almost work blindly, because I can't read without glasses or anything like that. And I don't do that kind of work with glasses. Now, I don't like people that are arrogant. I don't like people that have a big opinion of themselves. I don't like people that look down on other people. And that kind of thing puts me off. I just don't like it. And nobody must think he's better than the next person, whether it's me or the next person. But that I can't take. I can't stomach it. Soos Walter Battis. Hy sê wat ek nou nooit kan verdra nie. Maar hy is seker belangrik.
You know, he was not a well guy. I mean, for many years, he had gone through all sorts of really difficult medical problems. And through that all, I mean, he stayed positive. And I think just by doing that, gave the example to others that, you know, in time of distress and problems, you know, remain a positive individual, do something that's creative. I think that was the message that I got. In terms of his golfing prowess, you know, he started late in life and within a very short space of time was able to score a hole-in-one, which got all of us guys that have been playing for 30 years very upset, because, you know, I still haven't had one. And he was very proud of that. That hole-in-one of his was the real highlight of his golfing career, no question.
He travelled aimlessly without cause and centre, lost in his own space.
Ons mens as 'n mens is net 'n spikkeltjie van tyd in die verloop van die geskiedenis van die wêreld. Jy het geen invloed daarop. Jy of die gode wat jy gemaak het.
He would drop off paintings at Gallery 709 in Cape Town. He never inquired how many paintings were sold, unless he needed money. After settling in Philadelphia, Pieter met Ofra, a young Israeli girl. He always had a great interest in Israel, and Ofra made it bigger. The love of his life was also born from this marriage. His daughter, Maya. Unfortunately, after 7 years of marriage, Pieter and Ofra went their separate ways.
Ek in Pretoria gebore, presies waar in Pretoria weet ek nie. Maar ek weet of by die huis was of 'n inrigting of wat nie. Maar my ma is oorlede toe ek 3 jaar oud was. En my pa het die pad gevat. Hy het gaan brood koop. My ouma aan my ma se kant het my toe groot gemaak. En hulle was baie arm mense geweest daai tyd. En ek het baie lekker gelewe. Dit was 'n heerlike lewe. Ek was los en ek was vry, ek het gedoen wat ek wil. Hulle het nooit geweet wat ek doen nie. And they didn't encourage you to do anything. They just didn't know to care. It's only years and years later that I realized that my grandmother must have loved me very much. But at the time, of course, I wasn't aware of it. I was living my own life. I did a lot of things that they weren't even aware of. I remember when I was older, probably about 15, 16, I boxed. And I was boxing in the city hall, and they had a write-up in the paper the next day. And my uncle came, we lived with him, and he said, somebody told him in the newspaper that I was boxing. He didn't know I was boxing. You know, there are a few incidents in my life that I do regret to this very day. And it was every time when I said something that hurt somebody else. Those things I regret. I shouldn't have done it. But there's nothing I can do about it. If I've hurt people, they were hurt.
Pieter painted the world in which he lived, because that's what he saw. It allowed him to live on through his paintings. They would be proof that he lived in this world. He loved his children, Jan, Marjan, and Diederik, and all the people that he so often entertained in his home and within his pictures. Pictures of his life. After many spells of ill health and bypass surgery, he continued to paint. The colors were light, far away from his sickness and pain.
We all have experiences and we all go through different things in our lives, and how we deal with them, for each person it's different. And for my dad, what made him so special was his ability to capture the beauty in his artwork, I think. And so, you know, he had a difficult time when he was a child, and yet I know that even when he was very little, he used to paint, and he used to try and just find something different and something better for himself in artwork. He exposed himself to a lot of cultures, I suppose, by choice. He traveled a lot, and when my mom and dad were married, he spent a lot of time in Israel. There's a place in Jerusalem called Mea Shearim, which is where all the Orthodox Jewish people live, and they don't actually allow you to take cameras in, or you're not supposed to take photos. And I went there with my dad on a couple of occasions, and I know he went also when he was there by himself. He loved just walking through the streets, and I think what appealed to him was the simplicity of their life. There aren't really cars, there's bicycles. You hang your washing over your outside little banister thing. There's children walking in the street barefoot. They've got those curly, forgive me for not knowing, and wearing yarmulkes. And yeah, life is just so simple, and you basically work to make enough money to eat. You're not seeking greater things or striving for grander things. Life is just simple, and it's really beautiful. And I know he loved it there. He loved the tranquility and the peacefulness, and it was a special place for him.
You know, he met her, she was very young, and then when they got married, soon afterwards, Marjani was born. Marjani was definitely the love of his life. I don't think he loved anybody more than her. She was an exceptional child, as she was a very gifted child right from the beginning. And Ofra cared for her very well, but I think there was such a big age gap, and they developed in different directions. And Ofra, I think caring for the child was for her very important, and I think that's when the paths parted later. Ofra was very good for him for quite a long time. And I think that there's no other reason, that basically they went on different paths.
Pieter and Zabet met in 1991. The dominee told him to marry her. Pieter answered that he would when he hit a hole-in-one. Shortly afterwards, he did. He was happy to marry Zabet. She was his saving grace and allowed him to live again. He found himself bringing flowers at an age he thought he would never have to.
Ek vra nooit vir hom wat dit beteken of wat hy daarin sien nie. Om saam met hom te leef vir 'n tyd, leer jy hom ken. Hy's redelik privaat oor wat hy doen. Hy sê dit nie. So geniet dit wat jy sien. Maak jou eie assosiasie daarmee. Maar ek ervaar Pieter gee.
Pieter's love for restoring old houses started in Rawsonville. He bought an old house and restored everything except a small kitchen. After moving out of Rawsonville, Pieter continued this passion in his new home, Philadelphia. The pink Blikhuisie became a gallery and restaurant in which Zabet used to exhibit Pieter's work. Pieter and Zabet restored the old mill in the town to its former glory.
Daar was 'n ou Engelse lord van een of ander ding. En hy het 'n plaas hier aan die kant by Pieterberg. En vra hy my om sy vrou te paint. Maar die ou hy het eiendomme oral so na daai stadium is hy toe Amerika toe of iets. En toe het ek nou die ou tannie gaan verf. Maar so 'n regte tipiese Engelse tannie met sy daai lang Engelse tande wat hulle het. En soos ek portrette geverf het ek 2 uur sessies gehad. En op 'n keer tot 3-4 keer 'n sessie van 2 ure elk. En nou kan jy nie iemand vra om vir 2 ure lank te sit en tande wys nie. Toe het ek maar die ou tannie se oë, haar mond toegemaak. En haar gepaint. En ek was nogal heel tevrede met die ding en sy was ook tevrede. Toe vra sy my om die ding te laat raam. En toe het ek hom laat raam en vir haar gebel en gesê, hy is nou geraam, toe sê sy, ek moet hom hou tot haar man kom, want dit moet nou 'n surprise vir hom wees. Toe het ek hom nou gehou en toe bel sy eendag. Toe vat ek nou die prent oor. En die ou was toe glad nie beïndruk met hierdie prent. Hy sê, dit is nie sy vrou nie. Sy vrou smile altyd. En hy wil niks daarvan weet nie. En hy wil nie die prent hê nie. En ek vererg my en ek vat daai prent, was op canvas gedoen. En ek slaan hom so oor 'n stoel en daai 2 punte van die stoel se leuning so deur hom steek en ek draai om en ek loop weg. Baie kwaad. En ek het daai tyd 'n Jaguar gery. En hulle is maar laag op die grond. En by sy hek het hulle nou daai stuk ding in die middel van die hek wat hulle die pennetjies indruk as hulle hom toemaak. En toe ek daar oor ry, toe skep daai ding die onderstel, die uitlaatstelsel van my motor. En hy ruk hom af. En daar ry ek nou met die helse gedreun weg. En net daar het ek besluit, nooit weer maak ek portraits nie. Dis dit klaar.
He didn't really like to do portraits of people, so on a rare occasion he would agree to. But he painted numerous pictures of me, and I still look at them now, and not in a vain way. I just look at them thinking, what a gift to have these with me for the rest of my life.
I can only do what I can do. I can't do what you want me to do. I can't do what somebody else is going to like because I don't know what that person likes. I can only do what I know I like, and that's the end of it. If somebody else likes it, great, but if they don't, and there are as many or more people that don't like my work as there are that do like it.
Life is but short, an ethereal ripple, a canvas, bare and gesticulating. Perceptions condense reality, an own reality, boundless, timeless. a cornfield, a kite can set you free. Make the mundane delicate. Every joyous moment becomes a pensive woman, a chicken, a flower, eternity. Life is a journey, sometimes naked, a flightless bird that soars. Emotions become yellow, blue, mystic and soft, simple and sad, the only reality. Life is gentle. Chairs in my house, beautiful woman, my child playing, my reality. But life is short. A cough, a canvas, an eternal legacy.
It's hard to just put my dad in words and to express everything you feel about this amazing person who was your father and who was a wonderful artist who's admired by so many people. And it's hard for me because I don't feel like I can do him justice by expressing in words everything I want to say about him. And you can come up with so many adjectives or you can give him so much praise, but the actual feeling that you have and the admiration that you have or that I have for him from where he came, you know, I can't see many people, obviously there are exceptions, but not many people come from where he came and yet leave such a great legacy after they've passed away. And it's a blessing to me as his child, and I know to the people who like his art, it's just a privilege to have him as part of their lives.
In die trein sien ek 'n ou mens met 'n ou gesig waarin 'n tere kindertrek uit lank gelede tussen die plooie vasgeval het.
I think, and I'm part of that, to us ordinary people in the street, art also has a binding factor. In the case of South Africa, the wonderful landscapes which have been done by so many wonderful painters constantly remind us of the bond which bind us together in this beautiful country, the most beautiful country on earth, I believe.
It's the ambiguity of art which I appreciate enormously. I think it comes over, I love being an artist, and I love the fact there are other artists, from Pieter van Westhuizen and all that, but I love it, I love it, I love it. And it's my hope against tyrants and typhoons and tsunamis that there'll still be painting, as long as the human race, of course, around, but still. it's still a marvellous thing being a human being. Because you're thinking about being a human being. No dog thinks I'm a dog. So, but human beings think all the time, I'm a human being, what am I up to? Why am I doing this? Why am I on this planet? What is this planet anyway? One speck of dust. Nice thought. But we think these things, that's the great thing.
Nothing is dependent on my belief. I just accept. Whatever happens around you, it happens. I come into the world, I stay here for a short while, relative to eternity, it's a fraction. I have no influence on life, nothing at all. I know it. And I go out. And the same applies to the insect that lives 24 hours, or the elephant that lives a couple of 100 hours. All those are just incidents in the progress of life. And I'm just part of it. It's my own personal view, how I would like to see it. Not necessarily the way anybody's going to agree with it. But that's the way I see it, and that's all I do.
Sketch of your faces, I still don't know you want permanent. You want all of our moments stolen, blind alleys and hallways to basements. How are you gonna hide till you disappear? 'Cause nothing or nowhere is golden. Apartments are cages, I still don't know what is permanent. Maybe all my possessions were precious. Truth is all my possessions, I somehow lost them. Been traveling so light when we're floating by. Seems nothing and nowhere is golden. Some say we're lost in space. Some say we're falling off the page. Some say our life is insane, but it isn't insane on paper.
I've done it all. I've done it all. It's part of life. I don't see it as something special. I don't see it as something that's going to get me into heaven or something like that. It's just something everybody does. You just have to accept life the way it is. It's a simple life. It's a simple way of looking at life. And it makes life easy. But it takes a lot of help you before you can do that. Die geheim is om dit wat jy het te geniet in jou lewe. Enjoy everything, no matter what it is. Whether other people agree with you or not, you are there to enjoy life. As geen rede om ongelukkig te wees in die lewe nie. Just don't expect other people to allow you to live the way you like.
Dis amper 5 uur. Dis amper vrede op aarde.